Many thanks, Professor Panikok, for this wonderful speech, and very informative indeed. And I think it furnishes the grounds for fruitful discussion along with the next paper. Thank you again, and I apologize for making my opening remarks in Arabic, since I thought you have the translation device, but you don't. I think you will need it now, because we expect some Arabic questions from the audience. I will give now the floor for the audience in 15 minutes. الأسئلة الآن. Any comment, any question in Arabic or in English, but I think we need a translation.
It's the matter, of course, of the software. And I'm sure that students from abroad, outside Canada, can join this university. How much or how can you make it more accessible for those who are outside Canada and outside the educational system of Canada? Because it's the matter of, first of all, instructional programs in their countries, the policy of education in their countries, the system and academic framework, because digital university is something fantastic, but I hope fantastic and democratic, and it's for everybody. I hope we can have some idea about the costing, about if there was conventions or agreements with UNESCO or something. Thank you.
I can try to answer that, if that's okay.
Yes,
Chair? Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest problems we have is, and this has increased in the last 2 years, it's globally right now there are increasing restrictions on digital learning. It's the state of Brazil, I believe, is or has passed 80% of all learning must be in a classroom. Some jurisdictions, it's 20 or 30%, must be in a classroom. Even there is no evidence that classroom learning is any better. There are all sorts of reasons why that happens. Now, in Athabasca University, being a government-run institution, first of all, I have to assure you that we meet the same standards as all of the residential universities and the great universities of our province. In fact, our outcomes are higher and better. We generally do better by about 2 to 3% on all the outcome measures, and all universities are measured every other year. Now, that being said, our university is open to anybody in the world who wants to enroll. They would be, however, enrolled in Athabasca and get an Athabasca University credential. We're very, very careful because, again, we're a government-run institution. We will not do anything that offends or flies in the face of local jurisdictions. So if somebody says, learning in our country requires 20% in a classroom, then we see if we can work with the regional institution to do that. But the cost structures change, the learning outcomes then change, and that's why we're very, very careful about moving too quickly internationally. We are the only public Canadian university that has sought accreditation in the United States. And we have done that because Canada has a provincial system, not a national system. And so we've sought some validation externally. We have validation in a number of countries throughout the world. So yeah, you can do it. And we don't try to impose our structures. My last comment is Canada, because it is so large and so empty, it is very empty country. You will have little villages in the middle of nowhere with 20 to 50 people, maybe with a learner every 3 or 4 years. Well, we can't maintain classrooms in those places. So we've developed very aggressive and very successful, fully online courses. They do work. We're also the first university in North America to now have started an architecture degree fully online. We also have the largest nursing program online in Canada. And yes, we do deal with real patients and real buildings, and there are ways of dealing with all of those issues.
Okay. I think you mentioned to talk about the transfer that's the university from the traditional way into the digital. I think we know now that we have three kind of learning. I think face-to-face, e-learning, and I think face-to-face support by e-learning. E-learning is a really good subject, but I think we don't want to be hasty behind the e-learning. Before we know the advantage and the disadvantage of the problem of e-learning. There is many a problem, and I think you didn't mention one single problem. I think if you have some numbers or based on your research about e-learning, if you mention about the problem of e-learning. As you know, there's a lot of people, they don't know what's the problem about e-learning. They thought e-learning, it's really good modeling to implement it. And many universities, they run behind it. So, in my knowledge, I think there is many problem with the e-learning. If you can mention that to us, please.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I'd say there are problems with all forms of learning because they're not well measured. A lot of it's anecdotal, a lot of it's based on belief structures. We believe that classrooms are the best way because we've always done it that way. Well, e-learning provides a different context. What is really important, absolutely critical, is the new movement in learning analytics. I have a lot of hope for that because you can actually finally figure out what the steps to learning are, what happens in a classroom from step A to step B to step C. We've started to do those measurings in our programs. In fact, all our new courses, not all the ones I put on digitally, but all the new courses we're building will all have built-in learner analytics. So we can actually say, if you learn using this module in this way, and we will test it as it goes on, you will have that outcome. You can also then adjust the learning to the student so that, again, these courses are not going to be cheap to build. But if you have a student who doesn't understand this concept, they immediately get moved to an area where they will start beginning to learn that concept and then move on again. There is a company in Canada called Castle Rock who specializes in this. And they're the ones that started this. For example, in some of the MCAT exams, Medical College's mission, you're not tested if you know something, you're tested at the depth of your knowledge. So if you get if you answer a question, you get it right, then you move to the more difficult question, you get that right, you move to an even more difficult question until you can't do it anymore. So we can finally measure how deep the learning is rather than if you get the question right. So there's a lot of things going on, and I think that within, not my lifetime of being in the world, because my lifetime as an academic is nearly over. Yes, who knows, but nearly over. And we all do retire. But within a decade, you will see the very best universities begin to measure everything that goes on in learning. And that's partly because of the pressures of the funding bodies saying, we're not going to give you money if you can't prove you're successful. So the person who proves you're most successful will get the prize. The other thing, and a big driver in the world, is the Gates Foundation is very interested in learning analytics and is putting a lot of pressure and a lot of resources into learning analytics. So I'd say pay attention, read some of the literature, figure out what's going on. Use it or not.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. دكتور حسن المتروك من معهد الكويت للأبحاث العلمية. I'm Dr. Hassan al-Matrouk from Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. I would like to thank you, Dr. Fritz, for coming here and give us this nice talk. And I was really hoping that one of the decision makers are here. Actually, I was hoping for the Minister of Education to be here, actually, to listen to this nice talk. and because these talks really give us the boost to ask so many questions, and it drives us actually to think more of what's really needed in Kuwait. I would like to highlight something. Actually, I believe that Athabasca University has probably a unit or maybe a department for research into e-learning, and which is really lacking here in our country. Although there are really so many specialists here in Kuwait in e-learning in so many fields, I'm personally very interested in the socio-technical issues of how we adapt our society to the e-learning environments, and how we really want to bring people to really understand the digital world. What do you suggest, or what do you recommend really for the decision maker, Dr. Fritz? And because we want really to be frank with all the people here, especially the Minister of Education, okay, whether she's here or maybe the coming ministers to come in the future. Should they support research?
Yes.
Should they really involve people in research into e-learning? Should they be involved in studying the circumstances in Kuwait and schools in Kuwait and what the problems are and the obstacles? This is my main question, and I leave the rest for questions.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rawi Al-Hamaidan. I'm from the Education Technology Department in College of Basic Education. I'm wondering, Dr. Bangkok, if you could give me an idea about the training that took place just to make this shift from traditional to virtual environments. In Kuwait, I think I'm not sure if we would go that far, complete virtual model, but we might have the blended environments. So I just wonder about the training involved, preparing the faculty and the assistant faculty to be prepared for this environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another intervention.
Thank you for your interesting presentation. Really, it's clear that researchers, tertiary education students, even the secondary education students can make significant use from e-learning. But my question is regarding the industry, where skills and attitudes are the most important and dominant there. I don't know whether we can apply, or whether it applies, the e-learning applies to skills and attitudes, whether we can apply it to make our employees or industry employees make use or improve their attitudes and acquire the necessary skills for the work. I know in Canada, universities make significant service to the community and even to the economic sectors like the industry. I don't know whether from your experience you have any such thing to tell me about it, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other intervention before we... please. Say it. Go ahead. Mike.
Thank you, Doctor. This is Hani Al-Muhanna, educational businessman. Doctor, you concluded a very nice conclusion that whoever comes best of the code of practice of e-learning or how e-learning is used in the university is the one on the top. My question is, this requires, just like if we say, just like the ISO standard, we need an international e-learning standards that lots of thinkers should share and be authenticated. Just an example of the entrepreneur who came up with the idea of how to make funds in the books. Similar, all the thinkers, or everybody who can put something for the e-learning code of practice in the universities should come to one nexus point. We need to know, is this on thought? Is there a nexus point for that?